All right, welcome back to the Nuckhead podcast. Hope you guys have had a good couple of weeks. The Canucks are winning now, so I'm happy. And I think this might be the start of something good, but we still have to wait and see. There's a lot of drama circulating this team right now, and that's what I'm going to talk about in this episode. The Canucks season, man, it has been a roller coaster. It's crazy how this has unfolded, but I truly believe there's still hope, okay? And we'll get into that later. But first, let's talk about all the drama, all the trade rumors, all of that scary shit. I'm also going to respond to some of your guys' thoughts on all the chaos. And yeah, I'll get into why I think there's still hope at the end of this episode. So yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, so on Tuesday, January 28th of this week, Jim Rutherford went to the media and spoke with the Globe and Mail specifically. Gary Mason was the journalist he spoke to, and kind of spilled the beans on the whole JT Miller, Elias Pettersson situation. And I mean, okay, I shouldn't say spilled the beans. We still don't know what the problem is, but he kind of spoke more about how bad the problem is. And it came at a weird time as well, because the Canucks had just won their second game in a row for the first time since December 1st, which is absolutely disgusting. But yeah, I mean, Canucks fans were kind of excited, finally stringing 2 wins together after essentially 2 months, a month and a half. And then this article came out and Jim Rutherford basically was like, yeah, shit's fucked. Sorry, guys. Okay, he didn't say that, but it felt that way. And look, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are well versed in what's going on in the world of Canucks. In the world of Canucks, you probably know what's going on. So I'm not going to get too into the nitty-gritty of what he said, but I will highlight some of the quotes. First of all, he said,
"I felt like for a long time that there was a solution here because everybody has worked on it, including the parties involved, but it only gets resolved for a short period of time and then it festers again. So it certainly appears like there's not a good solution that would keep this group together."
And then he went on to say that he's spoken to both Pettersson and Miller about the situation. And he said,
"We've had those conversations and I think the parties understand that and I think they've tried. As you know, sometimes emotions get deep and as much as people try, sometimes you just can't get over it. It certainly appears that's what's going on here."
And then he said,
"We're talking about our 2 best forwards. It can be really tough on a franchise, not only present, but into the future. When you're planning on peaking this team into a contending team, and then you find out that's not going to happen, or at least it's not going to happen with the group we have now, then you have to put together a new plan. When you don't have chemistry, it's hard to be that consistent team because there's too much going on in the room for everybody to concentrate on what they're supposed to do."
And then he said,
"We'll have to do the best we can in trades. Whatever assets you get in return, you may turn them into something else, and we have to work our way back into being a contending team."
Yeah, so like I said, this interview came out right after the Canucks won their second game in a row. And that's not a huge deal, just 2 games, but it was a weird time and it kind of It threw the Canucks fan base into a frenzy. Freaked everybody out. I mean, that's terrifying to hear, especially after such a productive season last year where it really looked like, oh, cool, the Canucks are at least a perennial playoff contender now, at least. But in some cases, if you go back and read articles from the 2024 offseason, there were tons of people saying the Canucks were one of maybe 10, some of them were saying one of maybe 5 teams that were actual Stanley Cup contenders heading into the season. And, the only asterisk was, oh, but Demko's not healthy for, the first X amount of weeks, so we don't know for sure. But that was the only problem, really, coming into this season, was that Demko wouldn't be starting with the team, and there was a question on, can Sheloffs and Lankinen carry the load? But it's funny because what we thought was going to be the problem, I mean, the goaltending has not been a problem. Demko hasn't been the best. He's actually playing well now, but for basically every game besides his last 2, he wasn't playing his best hockey, but Lankinen has been lights out. So that wasn't an issue. It never was. The Canucks goaltending was fine all year. it's the scoring, which is so weird because going into the season, it's like, okay, well, we got Pettersson, his winger, we got DeBrusk, we brought in Kiefer Sherwood, which I think on paper kind of looked like good, they got a feisty guy for the playoffs. I don't think anyone really expected him to basically, I mean, he's at a 20-goal pace right now. He's going to break the all-time hits record too. So, Kiefer Sherwood's been great. DeBrusk has been great. Heinen, he hasn't put up a ton of points, but he's been an essential piece of the Canucks penalty kill, which is in the top 15 of the league right now, which even last year, I'm pretty sure we were like low 20s, I think. And the year prior, we were, I think, dead last. The penalty kill has not been good until this season, and Heinen has been a big part of that. Actually, I will say that the other big problem heading into the season that people were kind of getting ready for, besides Demko, was the defensive core. And it's true, like they haven't been great. I just want to say though, last year, that was also something people were worried about going into last season, the one that ended up being one of the best Canuck seasons of all time. Because, I mean, if you looked at it now, we look back and we're like, oh, wow, why were we worried? But at the time, your third pairing being, who was it? It was, it would have been Cole, Ian Cole, and I guess Juleson. I think that was, or Friedman. It was just, eventually they traded for Zadorov, obviously, but they only traded for Zadorov once they kind of looked like a good team, right? They wouldn't have done that if they looked bad. So, that going into last season, the D-core didn't look good on paper either. And Ian Cole just had a great year. So did Myers. Susie played great. Everyone played great. Juleson played great when Susie got injured. But the point is, like, the Canucks season, all the worries that people had going into it, the only one that actually like ended up being valid was the defense core. I mean, that's been a problem. But other than that, I mean, the goaltending's been solid. All the pickups, literally every single free agent signing the Canucks made, aside from probably Vinny Desharnais, has been good. Forbort has been good. He's probably been on the lower end of good, but he's been good. Sherwood's been amazing. Heinen's been clutch. DeBrusk, he's been streaky, but that's, we knew that signing him. And I think he's been great for the power play. Like, the team, it's just weird. And you look at what the problem is, and it's JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, right? And it just comes right back to this whole drama. Like, what the fuck, sorry for my language, but what the fucking fuck is going on? Actually, what is going on? And now it's to the point where Jim Rutherford is, it's January 28th when this article got posted. Jim Rutherford, the president of the team, is going to the media and saying, guys, shit is really messed up right now. We're going to have to trade one or both of these guys. So yeah, it's terrifying for us Canucks fans. I mean, every morning I wake up expecting to see some giant trade involving either Miller or Pettersson. And to be fair, there is a silver lining, all right? Both of these players are extremely valuable, so the Canucks are going to get some good, juicy assets in return. I understand that they're both having down years, and that takes off a few of their leverage points. And also, I mean, everybody and their dog knows the Canucks need to move one of them, so that also knocks off some points. But still, I mean, they're gonna get some valuable assets in return for one of these guys if they move one. And that is a silver lining here, right? But you're not really going to win a Pettersson trade, especially in the short term. If Pettersson's gone, your 26-year-old center, who I personally believe has about 5 Selke trophies up his sleeve before his career's done, that's going to hurt quite a bit. Which is also why I don't understand the idea that Pettersson's even involved in this. I also don't understand, because apparently like this whole beef between these two players has been bubbling up for years. Like, I don't think something happened. I know some people have speculated something happened earlier this season, but even that event, that hypothetical event, apparently, I mean, I guess I don't know for sure, but I've heard that was also a product of the bubbling up that has been happening for years. And that would explain why players like Brad Richardson came out and talked about their experiences when they played with the Canucks. Bo Horvat touched on it. Bruce Boudreau touched on it. These two players have been butting heads at different levels of intensity basically the entire time they've been on the same team. So the other thing that confuses me greatly is why they both signed super long extensions here, right? I guess like maybe they also believed it wasn't that big of an issue. But like, Pettersson's hesitation to, let's talk about this actually. Think back to last year, okay? Pettersson was very hesitant to re-sign with the Canucks. And, that's not uncommon for players of his stature about to get their big payday. It's a very common tactic that agents do. Like, you're trying to play your cards strategically and make sure you get the most money possible. And that, that's the job of the agent. So, at first, last season, it didn't really, I know people were writing articles all over. Does Pettersson not want to be here? He hasn't made it clear, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I'm going to wait till the season's over. He doesn't want it to distract him. And I was preaching last year. I was saying, guys, come on. He said why he's not re-signing. He's just trying to, but now I'm honestly looking back thinking maybe part of him didn't want to re-sign. Maybe, and I'm just going to join if you can't beat them, join them. I'm the media now. Let's just start speculating and making stuff up. But honestly, this might be a valid thing to talk about here. Maybe Pettersson was thinking hey, if this situation with Miller, and I'm not saying it's Miller's fault or anything, but if I'm sure, depending on your age, you've probably been in a toxic work environment before, or a toxic relationship of any kind, whether it be with a significant other, a sibling, a best friend, a roommate. I feel like that's a pretty common one, where you're in some sort of passive aggressive war. Because that's kind of the vibe I get from this. I kind of think, again, I'm speculating hard here, but I kind of think that's what this is, right? Two grown men in this, maybe just this, I wouldn't say hatred, but just not liking each other, just building up over time to the point where the best way to go is just to not really talk to each other. But then that leads to awkwardness and passive aggressiveness that bubbles up in arguments from time to time, or whatever it might be. Again, hard speculating here, but if you've been in a situation like that, it's toxic. Yeah. And in a work environment, right? Cause that's what it is. You're going to work, trying to get in the right headspace. And you got to remember, hockey players, athletes in general, but I hear more stories about hockey players just being absolute lunatics when it comes to their pregame rituals, beliefs and superstitions. I'm just Google NHL player superstitions, and you'll be surprised with the extent that some of these guys go to keep in the same headspace in order to win, right? And you're going into your locker room, and if there is this passive aggressive war going on, or just aggressive war going on, where, you just don't like this other dude, and it bubbles up randomly at certain times, once a month sometimes, twice a month sometimes, once a season sometimes, but it's really bad. I don't know. It would be hesitant. You're getting offered $11.5 million. That's crazy. And you might think, oh, well, what the hell? $11.5 million to live in one of the best cities in the world, playing the sport that I love, but also going to work and feeling this simmering level of anxiety, or just this tense atmosphere. Yeah, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think that could have something to do with why Pettersson was hesitant last year. And then Jim Rutherford being all right, well, it's the trade deadline, I'm going to move you to Carolina, and then him going, okay, fine, I'll resign. Maybe he came into this season, Miller and him clashed again, and he's just fuck. I don't know. Maybe he regrets it. I'm not saying he doesn't want to be here. I think he loves the city. Every Swede loves Vancouver. It's built for Swedes. Okay? Swedish people love this city. Of course he wants to be here, and it has nothing to do with the fans. It's just the organization and his teammate. I think Miller, right? I think I'm not even saying I think anymore. This whole Jim Rutherford article, the reason why it was such big news, because a lot of it we kind of are yeah, we know. But the only reason we know is because of other media outlets talking and leaking information. And basically Jim Rutherford just came out and was look, it is true. These players have an issue, and we've talked to them. We've asked them if they can work it out, and they both have said they've tried. And the answer kind of seems no. Rutherford was asked in the article why the Miller-Pettersson relationship hasn't been able to flourish or get fixed. And he said,
I think it's the same as anything. When something goes on for a longer period of time, it has a chance of not working, and people maybe don't work at it as hard, and it eventually just breaks.
It's a lot like a relationship, honestly. I mean, for those of you who have been in a relationship that eventually just dies, that's kind of how it goes. There's this old, I'm not going to misquote a quote, but there's just this thing about how most relationships, especially long-term ones, let's say you're in an 8-year relationship and you break up after 8 years. When you look back, the relationship really ended at the 5th year or the 6th year. There's this weird extra 2 or 3 years that is just putting up with each other, and it eventually snaps. And that's clearly, at least from these Jim Rutherford quotes, and I think a lot of what we could look back on, just old interviews of what they've said about each other, I think that's just what happened here. It was just it got to the point eventually, let's say year 4, of them kind of being not like verbally saying this, or maybe not even consciously saying it to themselves, but they eventually just got to the point where it was like, okay, I don't care about this person anymore. I'm indifferent towards them. That's really what it is. The Lumineers, one of my favorite bands. Quote from one of their songs. What song is it? Right. Sorry, I had to Google it. The Lumineers, Stubborn Love. Go listen to that song if you don't know it. It's a beautiful song. The opposite of love is indifference. It's not hate. Hate is still kind of love. You care enough to hate somebody. It's indifference, right? And I think just like that's kind of what happens. You fall out of love, and in this case, it's not love, but you fall out of just whether it be respect or friendship, whatever. You stop caring, and then what happens is the relationship doesn't heal, and it gets worse, and eventually, you just can't move on. And I think that's what happened here. And you might find it funny that I'm relating, these two rough and tough hockey players in a locker room setting, masculinity to like a loving relationship. But guys, it's basically the same shit. I mean, in terms of how it unfolds, not in terms of the actual relationship part. Anyways, okay. It's getting weird on this episode and I need to stop. Okay. It's turning into a fan fiction. Okay. I can't have that happen. Not here. Not now. That's later. That's what I launched the third Nuckhead channel. I don't know what I'd call it. You can give me some ideas. Anyways, okay. Rutherford goes on to say some other stuff, okay, which, look, it actually kind of gets a little better. He said,
if we trade one of these players, we will trade them when we decide to and when we get what we want. And if we don't, we won't trade one of them. Common sense.
That's what he said. He literally said common sense. Yeah, so he's aware, like, I'm not going to trade one of these guys. Like, they're both on long-term contracts. Neither of them are expiring. I'm not going to trade one of them until you give me what I want. And what I want is Braden Schneider. He didn't say that, but it's clear he wants Braden Schneider pretty bad. So kind of good news at the end there. He said, look, I'm not going to trade these guys for pennies. I'm going to make sure I get the value back. If I trade one of them, both of them, I'm going to make sure I get good value back. And it seems like he's willing to wait until the trade deadline. He's willing to wait until the draft, even the offseason, even next year. And look, the Canucks are winning now. And that kind of is the big question. Like, can the Canucks solve this issue by winning? How many Miller to Pettersson goals, Pettersson to Miller goals until these guys just fucking set their differences aside and are like, all right, let's win the cup. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I mean, unless one of these dudes like beat up their brother or like, I don't know, fucking stole millions of dollars from their bank account, like something actually terrible. If it's just some, clashing personalities, it is ultimately pretty silly that any of this is happening, right? And Miller's a 31-year-old dude from East Palestine, Ohio, and Pettersson is a 26-year-old dude from somewhere in Sweden. I can't remember the exact city name. They're from different worlds. They found their way to the same place through a ton of different experiences and made it to the same city in the same arena. And, they're different people, but at the same time, they're being like, again, it's hard to say this because like, who knows, maybe it'll come out in a book 20 years from now that like one of them or both of them did something really messed up. But like, until then, it is ultimately a very silly situation, and both of them are at blame for not just taking the high road and moving forward. I don't know. I mean, it's weird. Because even if like, okay, for the people who are like, oh, it's probably Pettersson just being a little baby, right? I know a lot of people think that. Okay, well, sure, let's entertain that. Well, JT Miller needs to step the fuck up and go take him to dinner. Have him at your place for a week. Take a leave of absence and go to Mexico with him. I don't know. Seriously, like, JT Miller, step up. If Pettersson's being a baby, it is your job to help, right? And when I say your job, it's because you're the reason in that case, right? Pettersson is clear. Like, even if you're just like, man, I'm just giving him tough love. Stop. Don't give him tough love if it's not working. Now, Pettersson, on the other hand, right? So let's say Miller's just being a hot-headed moron. Well, Pettersson, in that case, actually, what do you do? Let me think about that. What would you do? Well, figure out what you're doing to piss him off and stop. How about that? Even if it's something so dumb, like if Miller's like, dude, I hate the noise you make when you shoot. Duct tape your mouth. You know what I mean? That's a terrible example, but it also is a good example because it's like, don't like, if it's something like, you know, you're telling your friends behind closed doors, oh man, like JT pisses me off every day because he just gets so mad at me about the dumbest things. Hey, your job is to win a Stanley Cup. You fought for this opportunity for your entire life. You left your family in Sweden to move to Vancouver. You're making more money than like 99.9% of people will ever make in their lifetime a year. And even if it's like an irrational thing that's making JT angry, something that you're like, dude, that's so dumb. It probably is, by the way. I mean, if that's the situation, it probably is something dumb because otherwise Pettersson would have just stopped. And by the way, this might be minimizing this whole situation to like the most silly kindergarten-y thing ever, but unless there has been like an actual fist fight or an actual conversation insulting each other's mothers or wives or children or whatever, unless those things have happened, and by the way, if it's just words also, like even those examples I just gave, still, like you really should figure it out or request a trade. But, you know, on the other hand, it could be a situation where they're both playing chicken with one another. Like Miller signed for long-term here, Pettersson signed for long-term here, and maybe both of them are like, no, this is my team. I'm not going to request a trade. You request a trade. It could also be that, right? Because confuses me why. Like maybe that's the other thing too. Like you're looking at two guys, right? These are two dudes with fucking testosterone. Like, you know, I've been in situations where, you know, it's not even about men really. It's just situations where you butt heads, you get into this competitive like mindset where you've convinced yourself requesting a trade means you lost the ultimate argument or something. Okay, I got to move on because I was just ranting about something that might not even be true. Well, it isn't true. Look, there's still some more things we got to cover in this Jim Rutherford article. It wasn't done. I was wrong. There's actually one last thing, and it's probably the worst thing. Okay, so get ready. Okay, brace yourself. Sit down. If you're standing, sit down. Here's what he said.
If a center goes out of here, we have to get some kind of center back, but it's not going to be the same as the center going out. It might not even be a number 2 center, but you'd have to do the best with what we have until we figure out how we fill that spot back in. And then, of course, you have to get extra things that you can either use in the future to flip for NHL players now or for other positions or things like that.
And then when he was asked about Quinn Hughes re-signing later on, I believe it's 2028 when Quinn Hughes is up for a new contract, he said,
if we were going to completely start over, that means he goes too. And we'd like to figure out a way that he's here forever.
Jim Rutherford, man, come on. This guy has a history. I mean, he's a very well-respected general manager and president of hockey operations. He's won 3 cups. I can't remember if I already mentioned this in the podcast, but he won a cup with the Hurricanes in 2006 and 2 cups with the Penguins in 2016 and 2017. But he has a history of talking to the media. Okay, we've seen it with the Canucks. He was very vocal with the whole Bruce Boudreau incident that took place when they were firing him but not firing him. And now we see it with this. I don't have many other examples yet for his time with the Canucks, but he's only been here for a little over 2 years, I think. It's clearly something that he does. I think he might be using the media. I don't think this is too big brain of an idea. I think he might just be using the media as like a tool, a way to leverage himself in some way or another, whether it be with trades or to spark fire under the players' asses. It's interesting when you have all these rumors about Pettersson and Miller coming from less reliable sources at first, then coming from a bit more reliable sources, then the players are asked and it kind of makes it it's like, oh, maybe there is something. And Hughes doesn't deny it, Talkett doesn't deny it, but they also don't confirm it. And then more rumors come out. And then finally, for whatever reason, Jim Rutherford comes out this week and goes, yeah, no, it's real. There's got to be a reason for that, you'd think, right? I mean, of course there is, actually. I don't know why of course. He would have, unless he just is excited for the opportunity to talk to the media, which I'm sure he probably had that opportunity months ago when this first all started bubbling up. There's got to be a reason as to why he did that. Because, I mean, everyone's knee-jerk reaction to this article is kind of like, wow, what a dumb move by Rutherford. What a stupid thing to do. But like, if we take a second, let's just think about it. Like, why do you think he's doing it, right? If he's in the middle of negotiating trades, we already know that Miller was very close to being traded to the Rangers just a few weeks ago. Very close. He was even told that he wasn't going to play that night. I think it was against the Maple Leafs. Was it the Maple Leafs or Oilers? Doesn't matter. He was told he wasn't going to play in the game that night because he's about to be traded. but then a trade fell through and he played. Like, that's how close it was. So he's in the middle of negotiating deals with both of these players or one of these players. Why would he go to the media and say, yeah, we have to trade one of these guys? Like, our team, isn't going to be good if we don't trade one of these guys, right? Because that just makes any team that's in the middle of a negotiation with them go, hey, remember that second round pick we have involved in the deal? I think we're going to bump that down to a third. You know what I mean? Like, he loses leverage. So the knee-jerk reaction everyone is having, or a lot of people are having, is, wow, what a dumb move. What a dumb move. Hold up. He's won 3 cups. And he's also he's a professional. He knows what he's doing, right? Like, yes, people make mistakes. Absolutely, people make mistakes. And that could be this. But let's take a second and actually try to analyze this. What is he actually doing here? And bringing up Quinn Hughes' name too? Saying that, hey, if we have to rebuild, Hughes is out as well. But we don't want to do that. But if we're going to rebuild, of course, Hughes has to go too. Like, come on. He didn't just do that. He's not sitting at home right now with his head in his hands like,
why did I do that? Oh, Jim, you've done it again. Oh, you fucking fucker, fuck.
You think he's doing that? I think, like, the reaction people have had to this article, you can't think that it was dumb without also thinking he must be regretting it, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this too black and white. I just think he has a plan. I think he's either using the media again as a way to light a fire under their asses, and now he's bringing Hughes into it, right? Miller and Pettersson, they're gonna hear about this. I mean, it'd be honestly quite impressive if they managed to dodge this story, whether it's their family, their friends, their algorithm, something telling them, or just their own morbid curiosity reading the article, or Hughes coming to them and being like, yo, guys, like, come on, get your shit together. Now I'm getting involved. Whatever it is, I'd be very impressed if Miller and Pettersson did not hear about this article. So the question is then, why on earth is he doing it? And I personally believe there's got to be a reason. Or, someone fucking, maybe it's just copium. Maybe it's copium. Maybe Jim Rutherford just like, sorry guys, whatever. It's kind of shit hit the fan, hey? Crazy. I don't know, man. The whole thing is weird, but that's the drama. So the Canucks are winning. They've got 3 wins in a row now. I think they're going to keep winning, and it raises the question, is winning going to fix this, right? Can you still be mad at somebody? Like, let's say you were in the most heated. Let's say it was a roommate, okay? And you guys have just gotten to the point where you don't even want to talk to each other. It's not even worth it. All you do is argue. So you're on year 2 of just dealing with their bullshit. You don't talk to them, and it's complete, passive-aggressive warfare, right? But then someone walks in, Mr. Beast walks in, and he goes,
guys, if you fucking dodge this bullet, I'll give you $1 million that you can split.
You guys are going to be like, yippee, okay. You know what I mean? Like, what you guys are, isn't it just going to be like, aren't you guys going to be like, fine, I don't want to play with this guy. Mr. Beast brings your arch nemesis to you, and he goes,
for $1 million.
This is my Mr. Beast impression.
For $1 million.
I can't do it.
You have to hang out and enjoy your time with your arch nemesis.
I'm pretty sure you're going to be like, fuck yeah. I don't know why this has anything to do with winning. Well, no, it does. I'm just saying, like, if you got, how many Miller to Pettersson goals, Pettersson to Miller goals need to happen before these guys are like, hey, man, look, whatever can we just put this behind us? We don't have to be best friends. Again, I'm going off of not knowing what's going on. That's the other thing too. Like, I wish... It's so annoying because it's like we're invested in this team, and I could only imagine like being a player on the Canucks, how annoying it would be to just to walk around this city. Like, I mean, again, you want to interrupt me right now. I know you do. Brian, listening right now, probably wants to say, bro, they're making millions of dollars living in one of the best cities in the world. Even if it was a shitty city, they're making millions of dollars. Why, like, who cares? Yeah, sure, but it's all relative, right? Once you've become normalized to your bank account, life just continues on as normal life. And you're walking around this city, I would feel kind of annoyed, like, not knowing which people I'm walking by, A, know who I am, and B, have an opinion on how I'm performing at work, positive or negative, and C, feel like they're entitled to know the ins and outs of my beef with my coworker. Do you know what I mean? And then even further, to have like an opinion on which one of us is in the wrong. We don't invest in this team financially. We invest in this team emotionally, which is harder to quantify. You could argue it is more valuable though. I mean, I've had nights ruined by a bad Canucks loss. I mean, we all have, which, what's worse, losing $100,000 on a bad investment or falling into a pit of depression because your team sucks. I'm not even going to say which one's worse, but they're both bad. But anyways, I'm going off topic now. The point is, like, these guys are, I feel like I should be entitled to know what's going on, but at the same time, I'm like, no, this is just two dudes at work. Well, I don't need to know what happened or what's been happening. So it's crazy to even be like X amount of minutes into this episode talking about it and acknowledging that I'm fully aware that I shouldn't know, but I want to know so bad. I want to know. I want to be there. I want a documentary crew behind the scenes, and I want it to come out. Here's what really happened. The truth behind the Miller-Pedersen drama. I would love for that. They need to sell a book. I'll be the first person to promote it for free. They don't need to pay me. I'd promote the hell out of that book, authored by Connor Garland. He seems like a pretty fair middle ground guy to be like, here's what happened 10, 15 years from now. Connor Garland spills the beans on the Miller-Pedersen drama. Anyways, so we don't know what the hell's going on, so it's hard to say, because my gut, like I've already mentioned in this episode multiple times, I just wish they could sort it out. But again, like, what if Pedersen just like emailed me being like, hey man, I appreciate you saying we should work it out, but he actually killed my brother. Then I'd be like, oh, my bad. And also, I'm not saying it's Miller's fault. Let me give another example. What if Miller emailed me and said, yeah, Pedersen actually hacked into all my Facebook accounts and emailed all my exes saying I still love them. There you go. So now, two fake examples of them both being in the wrong. So we don't know what's actually going on. So it's hard to say, they're grown men, they should figure it out. But if it turns out to be just some weird passive aggressive thing, we've all been in situations where, like, when you're in the thick of it, it is really hard to break out of. Like, I'm sure you guys have been in it at some point or another with a loved one, or like a significant other, a sibling, or a roommate. Or I think roommates are pretty common from what I hear, but friendships too, right? Just anything. Like, it is hard to break out of when you're in the thick of it. And in hindsight, you're like, oh man, why didn't I just go up to them and be like, hey man, I'm sorry, or hey man, like, can we talk this out? And maybe honestly, like, this kind of fits with what I'm saying. Like, maybe that's what Rutherford, he's an old man. Like, he's been around the block. He doesn't just know his shit with hockey, but he's been in multiple relationships. And I don't mean with like women necessarily. I mean, like, he's seen friendships start and fail, and business relationships flourish and then fail. And maybe he's using the media here, and it could be an old fashioned way. Maybe it won't work. But maybe he's using the media here as a way to try to give these two players a glimpse of what hindsight might look like. You know what I mean? He might go, hey, if we need to trade both of these guys, then Hughes is gone too. And maybe like that will help them once it's, made real. It's not just a threat in the locker room behind closed doors. Once the media is aware of that, and the world and the fan base, maybe that's his way of trying to give them some hindsight. Like, again, hindsight you really only get once it's in the past. But maybe he's trying to tap in there and give them some sort of way of looking at this from a bigger picture and being like, hey, maybe this is something that like is just so small when you look at the big picture of all of this. Like, the other thing too is like, I don't know if these players realize how hard it is to find success in the NHL. Like, there are some incredible, incredible players who have not only never won a cup, but some of them never even been to the cup final. I mean, Jeff Skinner, okay, that's a weird guy to bring up right after I said incredible players. I mean, he's a great player, but he's not like, we were all thinking like Joe Thornton or the Sedins. But like Jeff Skinner, I'm pretty sure he's never been to the playoffs. He's like in his 30s and he's never even played a playoff game. And he's been a pretty good player his whole career. The Sedins, they were two of the best players of all time. Absolute sensational players. They went to the cup final one time and lost and never got that opportunity again. They never even made it past the second round again. In fact, they only made it past the second round once. Joe Thornton, cup final one time, right? And he was an incredible player, top 10 in points, I think, of all time. Don't quote me on that. He's in the conversation. Ugh, man, I'll just Google it. Just Googled it. Joe Thornton is 14th all time in points. Never won a cup. So like these players, you got Quinn Hughes, one of the best the best defender the Canucks have ever had, and he's so early in his career. One of the best defenders in the league. Right now, I think he's the best. But fast forward 2 months or rewind a year, and he's top 3, top 2, right? It's kind of shifting. But right now, I'd say probably since the start of last season, Hughes has been the best defender in the league. But whatever, who cares? 1, 2, or 3. You got Hughes on your back end, okay? You got Demko, great goalie, struggling a little bit right now, but he's a great goalie. You got Lankinen playing his heart out. And you got Miller, Pettersson down the middle. You got DeBrusk, you got Besser, you got these young guys coming up. We haven't even seen what Willander's going to do. DPD, I mean, he's not going to be a huge difference maker, at least not right now, but he looks great. Obviously, Lekramaki. Like, these guys need to look around and be like, hey, we've got 8 more years, or whatever, X amount more years in this city playing for this team with a fan base that is so hungry for a championship. If you, like, that's the other thing. If you guys are the group that's going to bring this city of a championship, you will be remembered forever. Forever. Look at how we treat the Burrows, the Stan Smeals, the Trevor Lindens, the Sedins, the ones that got us close but not quite over the edge. Look how we hold these guys in high regard. We love these dudes. They're from all over the world. Pavel Bure from Russia, you know, he's a legend out here. He'll never ever have to buy a beer in this city, a meal in this city. He has more money than like everybody in this city could ever dream of having, and yet he will never have to pay for a single thing in this city. You know, none of these guys do. It's crazy. I mean, I just hope they can see that. Like, use the hindsight. You, as good as you are, a cup is not waiting for you. A championship is not waiting for you. Legend status is not waiting for you. No matter how good you are, you have to earn it, and you have to figure out how to play through moments like this. Right? It's a sport, but it's also a metaphor for life. You know, it really is. Like, I think about it like this, because sometimes I wonder, you know, my career now is covering a hockey team that I really have no part of, right? Nothing I do is going to make this team better or worse, right? None of us. We're all. It's like kind of like gambling. We're all just putting our faith into this team, and it's fun, but it's also like, think about it like this. It's also kind of like taking your mental health to the gym. And that's why it's so important when the team is struggling, when there are bad decisions made, right? Or perceived bad decisions made. You know, if Pettersson gets traded tomorrow for chump change, right? And we're all pissed about it. Finding the silver lining is really important, because in times like this, when we had so many high expectations for this team, we were so excited coming into the season after last year. The team only got better on paper, it looked like. I mean, there were some injury troubles I mentioned before, and yes, the defense was a little weak, but nothing we couldn't overcome, and even more so, nothing we couldn't address with a little trade similar to the Zadorov one last year. Yeah, so in times like this, you really, as a fan, like, you might ask yourself, why do I care so much? And here's my answer. You care because you're at the gym. You're taking your mental health to a gym, and it's like a weird way to work out how to deal with life's hardships and life's curveballs, because we really have no control over this team. We really don't. We have no control over this team. And yet we care so deeply. Enough to riot. No, I'm just kidding. The riot was nonsense. We're not talking about the riot, but you know, sometimes it feels like that. I want to flip my couch. I want to throw a rock at my TV. I want to drown myself in my own tears. So yeah, it's about taking your mental health to the fucking gym, and we're lifting weights right now. So we got to figure out how to like keep our head screwed on straight here and find some positives, because we might wake up one day to one of these guys being moved, or both, for just a really something that we're like, at least in the short term, are not happy with, and we're gonna have to find a way to deal with that. I know some people are like, this team sucks, I hate this team, fire everybody, fire. I guarantee those people, not to be rude, but those people are also probably not good at handling life's curveballs, okay? Get good at handling life's curveballs by being a Canucks fan. Okay, anyways, that's the rant for now. Let's discuss some of the things you guys had to say. I said in my last video that I'd respond to, or at least try to respond to every single thing you guys said. So let's do that. I wish I gave a keyword so I could just search the comments, but we're just gonna have to scroll through. Let's see here. Well, okay, the top comment, or the one I pinned, was from @alovablecarrot. They said, my delusion of grandeur with this team at this point is that with all the media drama, the locker room, through the magical power of friendship and perseverance, will lock in for the remainder of the season, and this team will go on the most ridiculous and miraculous cup run of all time. Yeah, that's a delusion of grandeur for sure. I mean, well, it's not even it's just a hope. I mean, I know you're kidding around, but it's a hope. If you're cheering for this team, that is the way you cheer for them now. I mean, what else are we going to cheer for? Not home ice advantage in the playoffs, definitely not like a President's Trophy win or a top 10 finish, maybe a top 10 finish actually, I don't know. But the thing I'm kind of cheering for here is a squeak into the playoffs, right? Just squeak in. Once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. We already know that. So get into the playoffs, and through all of this drama, all this nonsense that we've been talking about all year, the Canucks are in a playoff spot right now. They are. It's kind of incredible. Let's see here. Who else can I respond to? Aether Very Best, at the very best, at her very best, said, thoughts on the Besser trade rumors? He seems like a great guy to keep around as long as they can figure out contract details. Trading him away just leaves more gaps to fill. So the NHL and the NHLPA released cap estimates for the next 3 seasons. This is brand new news as of today. And they said next season, the cap would go up to $95.5 million. The season after would go up to $104 million. And then the season after would go up to $113.5 million. Okay, that is wild. And someone actually did the math here. And essentially by 2028, Pettersson's $11.6 million contract would be the equivalent of $9 million by 2028. If the cap goes up that much, it'd be the equivalent of $9 million. And that's the year they got to re-sign Hughes. So when it comes to the Besser contract negotiations and the trade rumors there, the way I look at it is like a guy like Besser, not only does he really want to stay here, but he's been through so much as an individual. I'm not going to get into that, but he's been through so much as an individual in this city with a lot of these guys around him. A lot of the staff has remained the same as well. He's been here through all the changes, multiple different captains, Henrik to Bo to Quinn. He's been here through different coaches, multiple different coaches. He's been here through different GMs, different eras. He was here through COVID. He went to round 2, game 7 in the COVID bubble playoffs. He went to round 2, game 7 last year in the much realer atmosphere of the playoffs against the Oilers. I just think and also he's been here when the team was picking in the conversation for the first overall pick. I can't remember what year that was, but he's been here through it all. Top of the standings, bottom of the standings, fans hating everyone throwing their jerseys on the ice, fans throwing parades, cheering everybody on. I just think that's really valuable. And outside of the 40-goal possibility and outside of the talent that he brings on the ice, I think him understanding what it takes to win in this city, understanding the pressures of this city, it's a lot. I kind of imagine it is a wake-up call for any player who gets traded or drafted to Vancouver when they get here, assuming they didn't come from another Canadian market like Toronto or Montreal, just how much this city cares and how quickly we flip on players. And I say we, but I don't do that, but a lot of people really do just go from, oh, Tyler Myers sucks, trade him to the moon, to, oh my God, keep Tyler Myers on a pair with Hughes. He's playing fantastic. Basically, I think they really should try to keep Besser, assuming the price is right. But I think they need to keep him. Okay. At Cryptic Moist said, Rutherford commenting to the press was 100% the worst possible decision when the team's trying to work back to form. Ideal world, I don't want to see either Miller or Petey go, but the more the issue gets beaten to death publicly, the more likely radical changes happen and the players go for lower value. Yeah, I agree with you in the sense that him talking to the press lowers their value, Pettersson and Miller's value in the short term. But that is where you have to kind of go ... If that's the case, if him talking to the media randomly on a Tuesday affects their trade value negatively in the middle of them trying to negotiate a trade for one of them, then why did he do it? I kind of think that's not a full thought. No offense, Cryptic Moist, but think about that, right? Okay, yeah, Rutherford talking to the press hurts their trade value while he's trying to trade them. So why did he do it? You have to go ... So then why did he do it? Right? Because why would he just try to sabotage his own reputation or his own team or his own ability to trade them? Why would he do that? If he knew going to the press would turn that first round pick into a second or a third, why would he do it? You have to ask that. And so I think if you've listened to my whole podcast, I don't know if my idea or my answer is the right one, but that's where I'm at. I kind of think there must be some bigger reason here. Whether it's the right call or not is up for debate. I don't even know if I agree with it, but I do think he must be seeing a different angle than we are. I mean, he definitely is. He has all the details, right? He knows what's going on. So I'm not saying oh, he's incapable of making an error. Absolutely, this could be a bad call, but I also think there's more to it. Anyways, that's where I'm going to end this. I don't know how long the episode is, but it's 3:30 and I'm trying to have this come out before the game tonight. Now I only have an hour and a half. So, I got to get editing. Thank you everyone for listening. I'll see you next time. Go Canucks go. Coconuts glow. Bye.